So GPUs are at their cheapest that they've been for a very long time, but you might not be looking in the right places. I'm going to tell you guys for both NVIDIA and AMD which GPUs are probably a good buy right now, where you should be looking. It's going to make a very big difference on the price that you pay. Now, in the past, I've helped a lot of people find GPUs, and of course, GPU stuff changes every day, every week, and I always cover it, so definitely remember to subscribe and smash that like button. It helps the channel out and helps you get content, so definitely get subscribed for that. I'd be very happy. These are going to be mostly the hard to find GPUs during the big GPU shortage that we had during the last 2 years. For example, my Best Buy videos, you guys can go and check them out now. You'll see how many comments people gave even recently saying they were able to find this difficult to find GPU. They didn't have to go pay a scalper. They were able to find something out of stock, even as recent as the RTX 4090. But now the GPU shortage has taken a different turn. We're going to start with some of the more popular GPUs. Forget the high-end GPUs for now. Forget the 4090s or even the new AMD stuff that's coming out. Let's talk about some of the more budget options, mid-range, and then we'll get up to those GPUs that people really want, especially at the cheaper prices. Who wouldn't want a 3090 for like $600 to $700? Those are the prices that they're going for. But before we get to that, not everybody has a budget of over $500 for a GPU. It's been incredibly difficult to find them out in the retail space. If you want to go out and spend $600 on a 3070, retailers are more than happy to sell it to you. You'll be able to find it in various places. So if you want to spend maybe $300 something for a 3070, you may have to make a few compromises, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be getting a GPU that's basically the same for almost half the price. Now, this is the first thing I'm going to tell you guys. You're going to have to be willing to look on the secondhand market. Retailers haven't dropped the price of new RTX 3000 and RDNA 2 AMD GPUs, such as this one, like drastically as much as on the used market. Trust me, prices have fallen. This guy here used to be like $1,400, a 6900 XT. You can easily find one now on the secondhand market like eBay, Facebook Marketplace. You have to find people selling these things. You can find them for $600 to $700, sometimes even a little bit less if you get lucky. If you go on like Reddit, Hardware Swap, and different places like that, you find local people selling. You may be able to get lucky with some great pricing. So let's start towards the lower budget level GPUs. I don't mean budget like the cheapest necessarily. We're talking about still great performing GPUs that I would recommend that are great for people. Let's say if your budget isn't really all that much more than $300 or thereabouts in that range, and you want something newer that's going to perform really well, what are your options? Well, around the $300 range, if you want a new one, look behind me. There's the Intel Arc GPUs, but I'm going to fall short of actually recommending those because the drivers really aren't there. The performance is definitely a little bit sketchy. So there are going to be a few actually from both AMD and NVIDIA that are going to be some pretty nice recommendations. If you want something in the $200 something range, you could look at the 6600 XT, 6600. That's about as low as I think you should go on the AMD side. The 6500 XT is purely a terrible GPU. Avoid that at any price. But a 6600 XT, you can definitely find for under $300, and that's going to be a pretty great performer. Now, you may have to get a used one. These typically sometimes were mined on, but I don't really think that's the end of the world as long as the GPU looks to be in good condition. Some of them may even have a transferable warranty depending on the exact brand. That's going to be true of a lot of the GPUs that we mentioned here. So 6600 XT, you can find that easily in the $200 range. Sometimes even new, you may be able to find it for that if you look enough, across different vendors and different places. But used, you can definitely find it for that. Now, on the NVIDIA side, maybe a 3060, you definitely can find them for under $300. I mean, I've seen 3060 Ti's sell for like $320, $310. If you look on eBay and different places like that, used ones are selling for very close to $300. I would choose a 3060 Ti over an Intel Arc. I would choose that over a 6600 XT pretty much any day of the week. As we step it up a little bit more, let's look at the 6700 XT from AMD. This GPU often gets, I think, a little bit neglected, but it performs really well. Remember, this GPU can actually trade blows with something like a 3070, and you can find them now for easily in the $300 range. Maybe, let's say 350 average, 340. You can definitely find a 6700 XT, and it's going to be a GPU that performs really, really well. Of course, we do have to talk about some of the differences to expect between AMD and NVIDIA. Thankfully, AMD drivers are definitely much improved over past generations. It's not like Intel Arc where they're going to give you loads of problems. Typically, they've been, pretty resilient. They've been very reliable. Not many issues there. But on the NVIDIA side, you do have many benefits if you want to do any ray tracing. And while these lower end GPUs aren't necessarily the best at ray tracing, NVIDIA will do it better across the board. And they're going to have DLSS 2.0 on these GPUs, which is still a little bit better than what AMD can have with like FSR2 and those different upscaling technologies. So NVIDIA will certainly win there. Now, of course, content creators and, NVENC, different things like that, NVIDIA is going to have a pretty big lead. Blender, for content creators that use Blender, different 3D type of applications, NVIDIA is going to be definitely superior to AMD. Even at this lower price point, we don't even have to get to the higher GPUs. So you may want to go for the NVIDIA GPU there, but for people that want to do purely gaming, especially 1080p or 1440p, 6700 XT is actually a pretty good option for the price. Now, if you start stepping up a little bit higher on the used market, you can easily find a 3070 for under $400 as well. I've seen them all day for like $330, $350, and I would still say under $400. A 3070 is probably one of the best GPUs you're still going to buy. So definitely it's pretty efficient. It's going to perform really, really well. If you can find one for like that $350 to $400 range, definitely a great option. I mean, my favorite still is the Founders Edition. It's such a small little GPU and it performs really well, but you can get some monster cooler GPUs like an MSI Trio and things like that, even on the 3070 level. Now, as you start going to that $400 to $500 range, you do start to see some GPUs you've never seen in that range before. And of course, it's going to have to be used most likely to get these prices, but 3070 Ti's are definitely in the $400 range now. And I've even seen some 6800 and 6800 XTs be also in that range. And remember, the 6800 XT sometimes can perform as well as a 6900 XT, which was close to a 3090 in many cases. And of course, it'll at least be on the level of a 3080. So we're talking about a huge jump in actual like GPU performance here. If you can find a 6800 XT for under that $500 limit, I mean, that's going to be pretty incredible. And then, of course, even at this level, the same NVIDIA versus AMD arguments are still true. Content creators definitely go towards NVIDIA. Most likely it's going to be better. Those who want ray tracing performance, I mean, you're going to start to get better ray tracing performance around the level of the 6800 XT compared to, of course, the lower levels. But this is where, NVIDIA really gets a big lead in ray tracing with like the 3070 Ti. And then, as we'll see, the 3080 is sort of the next GPU up that has gone down in price a tremendous amount. I've seen them all day for that $500 to $600 range on the used market. Of course, retail, they're still expensive. They're still like $600 plus, maybe $700 plus, depending on the 3080. Then you just have to see if you're okay with the 10 gigabyte 3080, which for most people is more than fine, especially if you get a, Founders Edition 3080 for $550. I mean, that's a great value, I think. That's still going to be a fantastically performing GPU. 10 gigabytes of VRAM for 1440p, more than enough, even 4K. It's only in some really rare cases where you need more than that. And a lot of even the newer GPUs that are going to be coming out, some of them may just have 10 gigabytes of VRAM again, maybe like the 4060, 4070. So you're definitely going to be okay for that price. In that $500 to $600 range, I think that's when like the 3080 really starts to shine because it's still a great GPU. The only GPU that I think I would start to consider over the 3080, if you can get it cheap enough, would be maybe this guy, the 6900 XT. Now, if you're a content creator, definitely would prefer the 3080, but for a pure gamer, high refresh rate, 1440p, this guy is going to be absolutely amazing. It's basically as good as a 3090. Now, if you want to do ray tracing, this is not going to be anywhere near what a 3090 is, but traditional rasterization is going to be pretty amazing, and it's certainly going to beat a 3080. This is going to beat a 3080, a 3080 Ti. In fact, it even beats a 3090 at some games. AMD's drivers have definitely improved over the last few years since this came out, and those numbers have just gotten better as well. Like they say, age like fine wine when they talk about AMD drivers. So 6900 XT, they're going for that $600 to $700 range. You may get lucky and start to find these 6900 XTs slightly under $600 on the used market. Maybe you find somebody selling it that just wants to get rid of it. That's still an incredible deal. And if you don't care about ray tracing nearly as much, that's going to be the best bang for your buck you're going to get, period. This is going to perform as well as anything else out there. But if you do want to get ray tracing and have on the NVIDIA side, you're going to have to look at the 3080 Ti and the 3090. Now, remember when you're buying these used, they had VRAM issues because of the GDDR6X VRAM. You know, if people mined on them or things like that, they may have run that VRAM a little bit too hot. So if you're going to buy it used, just ask questions. Some people may have done the thermal pads. Sometimes that can cause other issues if they didn't put it back together properly. So that can always be a bit of an issue. Now with the 6900 XT, that's definitely not as big of a problem because it has regular, the VRAM. It's not the 6X variety. So something to be aware of when you're looking at a 3090, 3090 Ti, even down to the 3070 Ti, as they all had that 6X variety. But anyway, if you can get a 3090, I've seen them now in that $700 range for the used ones, $700 to $750, lots of them going for that price. The 3080 Ti, very close in price as well. They've depreciated almost to that same level. So 3090, if you can get it, has more VRAM. It's typically going to be a little better, but for gaming, 3080 Ti, really, really good. And if you get any of these for under $800 and they're in really nice condition, I think you're going to be having a GPU that's absolutely amazing. I mean, after all, even some of the newer GPUs like the 4080, the 12 gigabyte that they canceled, that wasn't going to be a huge amount faster than a 3090 anyway. So you still have a lot of almost next generation performance. A 3090 is still absolutely amazing. And typically it's going to be smaller than the newer stuff like the 4090. So under $800, that's really the sweet spot, it seems, for a lot of these older GPUs, even the highest end GPUs. The only one that's a little bit in that gray zone right now is the 3090 Ti. And while I think the 3090 Ti is sort of a great GPU by itself, the pricing it had originally and compared to the rest of the market, it just became a terrible value proposition. Now the new MSRP is around $1,099, which is way too expensive because the new next generation GPUs coming out now are going to be around that same price. I would just rather wait. I mean, you can get a 7900 XT, which is going to be much faster, for around $899, and that's going to be coming out next month, as well as the 4080 16 gigabytes that's coming out actually this month. That's going to be $1199. So for a little more, you're going to get a next generation 40 series GPU that's going to perform a lot better than the 3090 Ti. Mostly, it's going to have DLSS 3.0. Rasterization should be better as well. So definitely look at the 4090. Performance has definitely been really good, even though it's expensive, but 4080 16 gigabytes is going to be impressive as well, even though it's still going to be a bit expensive. So you want to remain well under the pricing of next generation GPUs if you want to buy something at a good price. That's why $800 and under is where you should be looking. Preferably, the best bang for your buck will really be more in that like $500 to $700 range. If you can get a 6900 XT, even like a 3080 Ti as it gets closer to that $600 price, I think that's definitely where you're going to be getting the best bang for your buck. So as always, there are great deals to be had, even with the next generation coming. It doesn't mean the old GPUs are going to be, invalid, but you definitely don't want to be paying retail at this point. You want to either wait if you want to pay retail, because then the price will truly go down, or you want to get it on the used market where you're going to get the best pricing possible. People know about the new GPUs already. They know the performance is great. We just have to wait for them to hit the market. There's still some weird shortage things going on. Like there's not that many 4090s pushing the prices sort of in a weird place for these other RTX 3000, but take a look at the used market. You can get some great deals, even under $500, under $400. You're going to get great performing GPUs like the 3070 without having to break the bank. All all the way up to stuff like the 6900 XT, which are really cheap and still great even with the new stuff coming out. You have to pay a lot more money for the new stuff. That's going to be the biggest difference. Let me know what you guys think. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.